Hello and welcome to my podcast called Innervation. Innervation was inspired by my previous podcast, Silence, where over the course of 2 years, I spoke every week with a total of 100 women from science, technology, engineering and mathematics or STEM. I kept all of those guests anonymous so that they could talk openly and honestly about their lives, and we discussed their experiences, what they've learned along their life journeys, and their hopes and ideas for living fulfilling and contented lives. Because their identities were always kept safe on Silence, the conversations were always so raw and transparent, and we didn't just talk about being women in STEM, but about everything. The topics that tended to come up were also the same topics that I discuss with my mentees or my friends, or I'm asked about after I've given a talk in schools and colleges. So I thought, rather than keep these topics closed and amongst a small group of people, how about throwing them out into the world and letting everyone hear and engage in issues that are clearly important to many of us? So what I've done is sift through all episodes of Silence to bring you my favourite sound bites about these certain topics. Each week on Innervation, I'll be reflecting on the perspectives that came up on Silence that I feel are actually pearls of wisdom that I found particularly provoking, inspiring and empowering, in the hope that they resonate with you too. This week is all about believing in yourself. So why did I choose to make a topic or an episode about believing in yourself? Well, I think it's one of the things that really hold me back from being the best version I can be. And believing in myself has been really, really hard. I've really struggled to believe in myself over the years because I am quite unconventional. I don't really fit many stereotypes. And so as a result, I've really struggled to believe in who I am. And so what that means is that I'm often sort of feeling like I'm not good enough, and I'm feeling like I can't do something, or that it's really hard, or it's too tough, or I shouldn't be trying because no one like me ever has. And it's really held me back. And so I wanted to delve into the subject of believing in oneself to see what women on Silence had to say about this topic, just to get, some kind of inspiration as to how to believe in yourself, like how to actually do it and how that whole concept works. So I wanted to kick off with a soundbite from episode 1, where she talks about why other people believing in us has been so important for her.
I think what would have been helpful is just having the support of people who really knew me to say, yeah, we believe in you, we know you're doing the right thing.
I think when we're young, it can be really difficult for us as individuals to believe in ourselves. I think we can only really believe in ourselves if, when we're young, people are believing in us. I think if you're a parent or you're looking after someone young, I think it's really important to believe in their abilities until they can learn to believe in themselves. And this is something that I maybe didn't get much of growing up, because my parents really pushed me to be the best I could be. So maybe they believed that I was really capable and believed that I was really smart and that I could do it. But I always got this message that, come on, push yourself harder, go, go, go. And it was less of a message of we believe in you, whatever it is that you want to do, we believe you can do it. And so I think my guest from episode 1 talks about the need for support and people believing in us from an early age. I think if we have that, it can really set us up to be great later on, because believing in yourself isn't an arrogant thing. It's just this really strong power that comes from within that allows us to realise our fullest potentials. And that really is all it takes, as I end up commenting when I speak to my guests from episode 95. That's all it takes, just one person to believe in you and to really genuinely see you for who you are. That's important. And I think one of the reasons why it can be so difficult to believe in ourselves is because we live in societies where we always are constantly comparing ourselves to other people, and we're always distracted with what other people are doing or how we look to other people. And there's a lot of kind of people pleasing and people impressing, a lot of distraction with the outside world. And I think believing in yourself really comes from turning inwards and getting to know who you truly are and finding out what makes you tick and what you're passionate about.
Being that authentic lifestyle or the authentic life or the authentic you is such a powerful statement. And if you look at any of the ancient scriptures, it's all about that whole mindfulness, getting to that power of you and centering you in your own skin. Um, I really believe in that. I think but it's a journey. We all, unfortunately, have to go through that journey to come to that realization. Um, and I think it sometimes it's also our strength because the effort that we put in is significant, and maybe the results are better. And I think in a stream like science, or where you come to scientists and research, a personality like that, where you continuously try and challenge yourself, you have that self doubt, you try and do it again, you get it right. In medicine, now that's such a it is almost a prerequisite to be good at something in that format, right? On the other spectrum of sales, you can take my drift there, where you have to show the confidence in the room, because otherwise, if you have self doubt, it's not going to people are not going to buy what you're saying. So it's that spectrum. It's those careers. It's those. But if you just look, even in these, we probably need to know when to switch on that spirit of not self doubt but self challenge. I wouldn't call it self doubt. I'll call it self challenge, because it's more positive. It's more like, we can do better. I need to do this better. I think it can go further. And that probably some professions really, and most professions would uh, would benefit from something like that. Would benefit from that, the self challenge that an individual brings to the table, and you have to be in that sphere of self challenge, self comparison. You have to compare yourself to only your next best self. And that takes away the whole social media aspect as well. Don't look at someone else, just compare yourself. Are you better than what you were yesterday in what you are doing today? You're in the right track.
I love that idea of comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, because I think believing in yourself is actually about sort of being a better version of yourself every single day. And work does need to be put in, and it's a constant process. Like, you don't just wake up one day and you believe in yourself. I think we all go through ebbs and flows of that. Some days you believe in yourself more than others, and it's okay that it kind of isn't a constant thing, but something that you do have to put effort and mindfulness into. And yeah, this idea of putting the focus back on who we are as individuals, and not blaming other people for our shortcomings, and actually having the maturity to say that I'm making decisions based on what I believe is to be correct, and not taking the easy way out by sort of following other people's instructions and then blaming them when it all goes wrong. And so believing in ourselves is a challenge. It is a chance to be the best versions of ourselves, and it does take work. I think we all face obstacles to believing in ourselves, and that can be generational. Like, often many of us are trying to tackle difficult things that we've experienced, not being raised a certain way, or having traumas in our lives, or just difficult things that have happened, which can often prevent us from being strong within our own skin. And that's a comment that I ended up making as a result of speaking to my guest in episode 60. The result of generations of fighters, basically. The result of generations of assertiveness, self-confidence, kind of courage, bravery to sort of stick up for what you believe in. I think it's really difficult for women who come from childhoods where there's been a lot of obstacles to overcome, basically.
Maybe coming from a less technical background.
Sometimes it can just be purely cultural or traditional. Many of us have not been able to believe in ourselves, particularly us as young women, when we go into very male-dominated industries like engineering. And I ended up speaking to a bunch of female engineers on episode 66 who talked about growing up in environments where certain things were expected of boys and certain behaviours were expected of girls. And they, having gone into very male-dominated subjects, realised that there was no reason for that typecasting.
And isn't that a theme with women in all fields at this point? It's just just believe in yourself.
Please. It's such a problem for women. And I don't know where that comes from. As engineers, have you experienced that kind of boy-girl thing where you're I don't know if I can assert myself right now?
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody does in engineering. That was a little bit, at least.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning, I think. Especially going into an engineering school and maybe coming from a less technical background and feeling like everyone around you knows what they're doing all the time.
Oh yeah. And I really think that is so part of why I was I'm not one of those boys. I'm not one of those boys who can be a mechanical engineer. I'm not one of those people that grew up doing all that. And I think it's because, and you mentioned something that I really resonated with me before. I was in an engineering program in high school, and I just remember all the time the boys would always know how to use this machine, or they would always know you need a center axis if you're going to machine that big of a piece of acrylic or something. And I always remember just thinking they know so much more. There's just so much more naturally talented at this than me. And that's not the case. We all came in at the exact same skill level, but they just happened to learn that a tiny bit before me, and that just always made it seem the guys just have this innate knowledge for how to use all these machines.
They have the confidence,
and it's
right?
exactly
That's
that. It's
They're
this
not
blind
scared,
confidence.
But we're scared of making mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think once
the
that clicked for me,
stereotypes-
I understood.
The stereotypes support that.
Yeah.
Because it's of course the boy would naturally think that. And it's no, hang on, we would have got there, but just in our way. Yeah. But it's not necessarily a worse way.
And I think it also starts at a young age where, if you're a 10-year-old boy, maybe your father or mother will take you out and be oh, you're the person that's supposed to learn about how to fix the car. You're the person that's going to go do this tinkering. And I'm lucky because I have we're a family of 3 girls, and my father is a tinkerer, and he always brought us into his tinkering and his shop and all that stuff. But I think boys are just usually the ones that people grab and say, oh, learn how to do this, and girls maybe not. And it's hard because then it gives that innate advantage almost, or confidence and some ability going into school that creates this gap that you really need to close. And I think we need to change that and have everyone should be a tinkerer. Everyone should learn how to fix the car. That's a skill that you need in your life.
And everyone should be not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
But you know what? Ultimately, it really just matters what you believe about yourself. In my own experience, I've spent a lot of time worrying about what other people think, particularly people I really love and care about. And ultimately, other people's perception of you will never ever be as important or as fulfilling or as influential as your own perception of you. And so I think it's really important to spend time with yourself, getting to know who you are, not getting distracted by other people's behaviors or actions or shortcomings or defects, or even achievements and accomplishments, but to really just focus on yourself and get to love the person that you are. Because I think in truly knowing what makes you tick, it can really help in believing in yourself and living to your own fullest potential, as my guest in episode 10 describes.
If I don't believe in myself, no one else will. So
yeah, where do you think that self-belief has come from?
I think a lot of it is growing up and being able to do it in a controlled setting such as school. I wasn't the best student, but I pushed through. I was really happy with the grades. I was able to make personal goals and reach all those personal goals, and have done that my entire life. So it's like, if I've done it before, I can do it again and keep believing in myself, push past this hurdle.
Each and every single one of us have special gifts and special talents, and we're all unique and special in our own ways. And I think it's really important to tap into what it is about you that makes you so amazing, because I guarantee there is something there. And even if it's just the ability to love others, or to see the world in a certain way, or to be kind, or to be able to just smile to strangers, we all carry something really amazing within us. And I think it's up to us as individuals to find out what that is. And if we do find it, it will really help in believing in ourselves and in our ability to give to the world and to make a difference for being here. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But I think that through turning inwards, as we always do on Innervation, it's a gold mine that's waiting to be discovered. Thank you so much for listening this week. Please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review if you can. I'd love to have your feedback about this episode that you've listened to, or any others, and suggestions for future topics for this show. It's all about self-discovery and evolution on Innervation. So if there are any issues which you feel are holding you back from living to your fullest potential, I'd love to delve into that by drawing upon the wisdom and experiences of my amazing guests. Be kind and loving to yourselves, and I wish you all a great week.